The billionaire went undercover as a convict, until the maid saved his children from his fiancée. The slap echoed through the kitchen like thunder. Marcus Chen, 38, froze behind the foggy window, his grease-stained hands gripping the mop handle. Through the glass, he watched his 7-year-old daughter Emma press her palm against her reddened cheek, fighting back tears. "Pathetic," spat Rebecca, Marcus's fiancée, leaning over the girl. "Your dead mother would be ashamed of what you've become." 4-year-old Tyler began sobbing in the corner. Rebecca whirled around. "Shut that mouth before I give you a real reason to cry." Marcus felt his nails dig into his palms. 3 weeks. 3 weeks pretending to be James Sullivan, an ex-convict hired for general services through a rehabilitation program he'd created years ago, never imagining he'd one day use it to infiltrate his own home. 3 weeks since he'd invented that urgent trip to the Seattle office. 3 weeks documenting every second of hell his children lived while he was away. "Look at me when I'm talking," Rebecca grabbed Emma's chin forcefully. The girl trembled but kept her eyes fixed on the floor. Something inside her had already learned that meeting that woman's gaze only made things worse. That's when the pantry door opened. "Let her go. Now." The voice was firm, controlled, but carried an authority that made Rebecca instinctively step back. Nina Rodriguez, the housekeeper hired just a month earlier, crossed the kitchen with decisive steps. Her 32 years carried a hardness that came from someone who'd weathered worse storms. "Excuse me." Rebecca released Emma, but her face twisted in barely disguised fury. "Who do you think you are to give me orders? Someone who won't stand by watching a child get hit." Nina positioned herself between Rebecca and the children, completely blocking the view. "Emma, Tyler, go to the backyard. Now." The siblings didn't need to hear twice. They ran past the back door, nearly bumping into Marcus, who quickly resumed pretending to clean the wooden deck. "You're fired," Rebecca announced, crossing her arms. Her perfectly manicured nails gleamed under the artificial light. "Get your things and leave my house." "Your house?" Nina tilted her head slightly. "Interesting. Because as far as I know, you haven't even married Marcus yet. This house belongs to his children as much as it belongs to him." Rebecca's jaw locked. For a moment, Marcus thought she would explode. But then that cold, calculated smile took over her face. "Of course. You're right." Her voice dripped poison disguised as honey. "Good that you care so much about the children. But maybe you should worry more about your own job. I know many people in this city. One word from me and you'll never work in any decent house again." Nina didn't look away. "Do what you need to do." After Rebecca stormed out, silence weighed heavy in the kitchen. Marcus continued scrubbing the same corner of the floor, pretending he'd heard nothing, while Nina leaned against the counter, breathing deeply. She didn't know that the ex-convict cleaning the deck was actually Marcus Chen, founder of TechCore Solutions, owner of a fortune valued at $400 million. Didn't know that this man with a regular beard, fake forearm tattoos, and worn thrift store clothes was the father of the children she just protected. And Marcus had no idea that Nina Rodriguez had lost her own younger sister to an abusive stepfather 10 years ago, because no one had the courage to intervene in time. Some wounds never fully close. They just teach you to bleed silently while preventing others from bleeding too. That night, in the cheap boarding house where Marcus had rented a room under a false name, he reviewed his notes. 23 documented incidents. 12 audio recordings. 6 discreetly captured videos. Each piece of evidence meticulously organized in an encrypted folder his lawyer, David Park, was waiting to transform into legal proceedings. But something had changed that day. Nina Rodriguez had done what he, disguised and limited, couldn't do, put her body between danger and his children. And now Rebecca knew she had an enemy inside the house. If you're enjoying this story of courage and justice, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what comes next will show that sometimes the most unlikely person becomes the most necessary hero. The next morning arrived with dangerous silence. Marcus swept the front porch as Rebecca's silver Mercedes pulled into the driveway. She stepped out in a cream suit that probably cost 3 months' salary, phone pressed to her ear. "I don't care what excuses she gives, Margaret. That woman is a liability. Yes, she physically threatened me in front of the children." Marcus's grip tightened on the broom. Physically threatened? Nina had simply stood between Rebecca and Emma. But he knew exactly what Rebecca was doing, rewriting the narrative. Inside, Nina prepared breakfast. Emma sat pushing cereal around her bowl. Tyler's chair was empty. "Where's your brother?" Nina asked gently. "Hiding. He does that now when he hears her car." Nina knelt beside the girl. "Emma, what happened yesterday, what she did, that's not okay. And it's not your fault." The 7-year-old looked up, eyes swimming. "But she said Mommy would be disappointed in me." "Your mommy loved you more than anything," Nina said firmly. "She would never want someone to hurt you like that." Through the window, Marcus watched, throat burning. Andrea had died 2 years ago from a sudden aneurysm. The grief had nearly destroyed him. He'd thrown himself into work, hired nannies to fill the void he couldn't face. That's how Rebecca had slipped in. Elegant, patient, calculating. She'd waited exactly the right amount of time. Marcus had mistaken her timing for genuine affection. Rebecca burst through the door. "Nina, I need to speak with you. Now." Nina straightened, squeezing Emma's shoulder before walking to the living room. Marcus positioned himself near the hallway. "I've made some calls," Rebecca began with false concern. "Several agencies told me your references are problematic." "Problematic how?" "Complaints about overstepping boundaries, involving yourself in family matters." Rebecca paused dramatically. "I'm starting to understand why you were let go." Marcus clenched his jaw. He'd personally vetted Nina's background. Her references were impeccable. Rebecca was manufacturing lies. "Those complaints don't exist," Nina said quietly. "And you know it." "Do I?" "I also heard something interesting about your sister. How she died because of domestic issues you failed to report. Makes me wonder if you have a savior complex." Color drained from Nina's face. Her hands trembled before clenching into fists. "My sister died because people like you choose comfort over courage," Nina said, voice shaking with controlled rage. "Because it's easier to look away. Careful. One more outburst and you're gone. Then fire me. Right now. But I'm not leaving those children alone with you until their father returns." Rebecca's eyes flashed. "You think Marcus will believe you over me? His grieving fiancé helping raise his children? You're nobody." Marcus's phone vibrated. "David, Judge Thompson reviewing final evidence. Need 5 more days minimum." 5 days. 5 more days of this nightmare. That afternoon, Rebecca organized a video call with Javier, Marcus's hired actor. Emma and Tyler were positioned perfectly in frame, forced smiles plastered on their faces. "Say hi to Daddy," Rebecca prompted, hand resting possessively on Emma's shoulder. "Hi Daddy," they chorused mechanically. Marcus watched through a crack in the door. Tyler flinched when Rebecca's nails dug into his arm. A warning. "How are my babies?" Javier's voice mimicked Marcus perfectly. "Good," Emma said. "We miss you." A pause. "Too long." Rebecca's smile tightened. "Rebecca taking good care of you?" "Yes. Very good care of us." After the call, Rebecca sent both children to their rooms. "Stay there until dinner. No noise." Nina appeared. "It's 3 in the afternoon. They haven't been outside all day. They need discipline. Something their father failed to teach them. They're children, not soldiers. They're my responsibility now." Rebecca's voice dropped dangerously. "If you can't respect that, maybe we discuss your departure sooner." That night, Marcus found Nina on the back porch steps, face buried in her hands. "Rough day?" he asked in his practiced gravelly voice. Nina looked up startled, then relaxed seeing James. "You could say that. Kids seem scared of her." "They are. And I can't do anything without losing this job and leaving them unprotected." Marcus sat below her. "Why stay?" Nina was quiet. 10 years ago, I didn't stay. I convinced myself it wasn't my business. My sister was 14 when her stepfather's discipline went too far. I found out at her funeral." Marcus felt his chest constrict. "I'm sorry." "Me too. But sorry doesn't bring her back. Action does. Even if it costs me everything, those kids will know someone fought for them." Marcus wanted to tell her everything. That he was their father. that he'd seen her courage. But 5 more days. You're braver than you think, he said quietly. Inside, Rebecca paced on her phone, gesturing angrily. Building her case. Destroying Nina's reputation one call at a time. What she didn't know was that every word was being recorded by the device Marcus had hidden in the ceiling fan. Day 22 began with Tyler's scream. Marcus dropped the rake and sprinted inside. The 4-year-old clutched his hand against his chest, tears streaming. What happened? Nina rushed from the laundry room. Rebecca stood by the stove, wooden spoon in hand, eerily calm. He tried stealing cookies before lunch. I tapped his hand. Children need consequences. You burned him, Nina whispered, staring at the red welt. I corrected him. There's a difference. Marcus forced himself to stay in character, watching through the doorway as Nina ran Tyler's hand under cold water. Every cell screamed to end this. But David's morning text was clear. Judge Thompson delayed review. Need 3 more days. Don't break cover. That afternoon, while Rebecca attended yoga, Nina found Marcus trimming hedges. James, she said quietly, glancing around. I need help with something that could get us both in trouble. She handed him her phone. I've been documenting everything. Photos of bruises, recordings of threats. I need someone to hold copies in case she finds mine. Marcus stared at the screen. Dozens of files. Time-stamped, organized, damning. Nina had been building her own case. Why trust me? Because you look at those kids the way I do. Like they matter more than anything. Marcus transferred files to his burner device. What's your plan? When Marcus returns, I show him everything. If she fires me first, I go to Child Protective Services. One way or another, this ends. And if he doesn't believe you? Then I pray he's a better father than I think. The irony burned. That evening, Rebecca's voice rose from the study. What do you mean he moved the meeting? Marcus returns in 3 days and I need everything finalized before then. Marcus froze. Finalized? After Rebecca left for dinner, he slipped into the study. Her laptop was open, password saved. What he found made his blood run cold. Emails to a family attorney about expediting guardianship paperwork. Drafts claiming Marcus was emotionally unstable, neglecting his children. A narrative painting her as the stable force. She wasn't just abusing his children. She was planning to take them permanently. Marcus photographed everything. Then he saw the final email to Gregory Marsh, private investigator. Need complete background on Nina Rodriguez. Focus on sister's death, any criminal history, mental health records. Premium for fast results. He forwarded everything to David. How fast can Thompson move? Reply, emergency hearing possible if we prove immediate danger. But you need to surface. Now. That night, Nina knocked on the garage apartment. She's escalating, Nina said. Tyler's hand, the isolation, now boarding school for Emma. Something's wrong. Boarding school. She told Emma today that little girls who can't behave need structured environments. Emma's 7. She's terrified. Marcus made a decision. What if I told you Marcus Chen is coming back earlier than planned? Nina blinked. How would you know? I make it my business to know things. I got connections. Chen's security team talks. When? 2 days. Maybe less. Think you can keep those kids safe? I'll die trying. The next morning, Rebecca's investigator called. Marcus listened from the garden. You found what? Perfect. Email me everything. Later, Rebecca cornered Nina. We need to talk about your employment history. The real one. The family in Austin where you stole jewelry. Where the wife got a restraining order. Nina's face went white. That's not what happened. No? I have court documents. Rebecca held up her phone. Funny how you left that off your application. Marcus knew Nina's background. David had vetted her. The documents were fabricated. Those documents are fake, Nina said steadily. We'll let the police decide. I'm calling them now. Marcus texted David, do it. Emergency hearing. Today. I'm done hiding. Then he walked through the door, still in character, but done pretending. Mrs. Ashford, maybe you want to think twice about that call. Rebecca spun. This doesn't concern you. Marcus reached up, peeling away the fake beard. Actually, it concerns me more than you know. Nina gasped. Rebecca's phone clattered to the floor. Hello, Rebecca, Marcus Chen said in his real voice. We need to talk about my children. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. The kitchen existed in a suspended moment where reality hadn't quite caught up with what their eyes were seeing. Then Rebecca laughed. Sharp, brittle, desperate. This is insane. Marcus, you're supposed to be in Seattle. This is some kind of breakdown, some elaborate joke. 23 days, Marcus cut her off, his voice steady and cold. 23 days watching you terrorize my children. Every slap. Every threat. Every meal you denied them. All documented. Rebecca's face cycled through emotions. Shock, fury, calculation. She settled on victimhood, tears instantly welling in her eyes. You spied on me? Your fiancé? The woman trying to hold your family together while you abandoned them. Her voice cracked perfectly. I've been protecting these children from their own grief, teaching them structure, and you've been playing dress-up pretending to be some criminal? Nina stood frozen, still processing that the ex-convict janitor was actually Marcus Chen. Protecting them? Marcus pulled out his phone, tapping the screen. Rebecca's voice filled the kitchen, crystal clear. Fear works better than love. Love makes children spoiled. These kids need to learn their place. Another tap. Another recording. Your dead mother would be ashamed of what you've become. Rebecca's tears vanished. You recorded private conversations. That's illegal. No court will accept. Actually, a new voice said from the doorway, in this state, one-party consent is all that's required. David Park stepped inside, briefcase in hand, followed by 2 police officers and a woman in a gray suit carrying official documents. Rebecca Ashford, the woman said, I'm Karen Mitchell, Family Services. We have an emergency custody order signed by Judge Thompson 1 hour ago, removing Emma and Tyler Chun from your care effective immediately. Rebecca's composure shattered completely. You can't do this. I have rights. We're engaged. An engagement isn't a legal relationship, David said calmly. And these recordings, combined with photographic evidence of injuries to the children, medical records from today's hospital visit for Tyler's burn. Hospital visit? Rebecca's eyes went wild. Nobody took him to. I did, Nina said quietly. While you were at yoga. Dr. Patterson documented second-degree burns consistent with deliberate contact with a heated object. Marcus looked at Nina with something between gratitude and awe. She'd been building her own case, protecting his children even when she thought he was thousands of miles away. Rebecca lunged toward the hallway, clearly aiming for the children's rooms. One officer stepped smoothly into her path. Don't make this worse, he said firmly. Worse? You're letting him destroy me with fabricated evidence. Rebecca spun to Marcus, her mask completely gone now, revealing the rage beneath. You think you're so clever? You're pathetic. Hiding like a coward instead of being a real father. Those kids needed discipline and you were too weak to provide it. Discipline. Marcus's voice dropped dangerously low. You burned my 4-year-old son for trying to eat a cookie. You slapped my daughter for making her bed imperfectly. You told Emma her dead mother would be ashamed of her. She needed to hear it. They're spoiled, entitled. They're traumatized children who lost their mother. Marcus shouted, his composure finally cracking. And you used their grief as an excuse to abuse them. The second officer spoke into his radio. We need child services transport at the Chen residence. Rebecca's lawyer voice activated. I want my attorney. I'm not saying another word. And Marcus, you'll regret this. I'll sue you for emotional distress, defamation, invasion of privacy. Good luck with that, David said, pulling a document from his briefcase. Especially when the district attorney reviews evidence of you falsifying records about Nina Rodriguez. Forgery, fraud, attempted witness intimidation. That's before we get to the child abuse charges. Rebecca's face went ashen. What are you talking about? Gregory Marsh, the investigator you hired? He's very cooperative when facing accessory charges. He provided copies of everything, the fake court documents, the fabricated theft accusations, text messages where you explicitly instructed him to create whatever evidence necessary to destroy Nina's credibility. Marcus watched Rebecca's world collapse in real time. Every carefully constructed lie, every manipulation, every calculated move, all unraveling. Where are Emma and Tyler? Karen Mitchell asked. Upstairs, Nina said. I'll get them. No, Marcus stopped her gently. Let me. He climbed the stairs to Lily's room, his legs feeling weak. Emma sat on her bed, Tyler curled beside her, both staring at the door with wide, frightened eyes. Daddy. Emma whispered, as if afraid speaking louder would make him disappear. Marcus knelt, opening his arms. Both children crashed into him, small bodies shaking with sobs. I'm sorry, he whispered into their hair. I'm so sorry I wasn't here. But I am now, and nobody's ever going to hurt you again. Is she leaving? Tyler asked, voice muffled against Marcus's shirt. Yes, buddy. She's leaving and she's never coming back. Downstairs, Rebecca was being escorted to a police car, still screaming threats about lawyers and lawsuits. Neighbors had gathered on the street, watching the spectacle. The same women who'd attended her brunches, who'd admired her discipline techniques, now recorded everything on their phones, already composing texts to their own social circles. Rebecca's reputation wasn't just damaged. It was obliterated. Nina stood in the doorway, watching Marcus with his children. When he looked up, their eyes met. Gratitude, respect, and something deeper passed between them. Thank you, Marcus said. For everything. For protecting them when I couldn't. You were protecting them too, Nina replied. Just differently. David approached with final documents. Judge Thompson wants to see you tomorrow morning. Formality, mostly. The restraining order is permanent, and given the evidence, criminal charges are proceeding. Marcus nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. As the police car drove away with Rebecca still screaming, Emma tugged his sleeve. Daddy, was that really you? The man who cleaned the floors. It was, sweetheart. Why? Because sometimes the only way to see the truth is to become invisible. He kissed her forehead. And I needed to know the truth to keep you safe. Tyler looked at Nina. Are you leaving too? Nina glanced at Marcus, uncertain. I hope not, Marcus said quietly. If she'll stay. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the kitchen watching Emma draw at the table. Not the stiff, fearful child who used to flinch at every sound, but a 7-year-old girl laughing as she colored a picture of their family, including a new addition she'd drawn holding Tyler's hand. Nina needs bigger hair, Tyler announced seriously, peering over his sister's shoulder. Her hair is very big and pretty. I'll add more, Emma giggled, reaching for the brown marker. Nina walked in carrying groceries, her hair indeed pulled back in its characteristic voluminous ponytail. Are you two talking about my hair again? It's very pretty. Tyler insisted. She laughed, ruffling his hair. Thank you, sweetheart. Now, who wants to help make cookies? Me. Both children shouted simultaneously. Marcus watched them gather around Nina, chattering excitedly about chocolate chips versus butterscotch. The transformation was remarkable. Emma had started therapy and was slowly learning to be a child again. Tyler's nightmares had decreased from nightly to occasional. The house felt like a home. You're staring, Nina said quietly, catching his eye as she measured flour. Observing, Marcus corrected with a small smile. There's a difference. She rolled her eyes but smiled back. Over the past months, their relationship had evolved from employer-employee to something neither of them quite knew how to define yet. Marcus wasn't rushing it. After Rebecca, he'd learned that some things were worth taking slowly. His phone buzzed. A news alert, Rebecca Ashford sentenced to 18 months for child endangerment, fraud charges. David had warned him it wouldn't be longer. First offense, good lawyers, plea deal. But the conviction itself mattered more than the length. It was public record now. Searchable. Permanent. Rebecca's social media empire had collapsed within days of her arrest. The influencer who'd built a brand on elegant parenting and traditional family values was now a cautionary tale shared in parenting forums as an example of abuse disguised as discipline. Her former friends had distanced themselves immediately. The women who'd attended her brunches now claimed they'd always suspected something was wrong despite their earlier complicit silence. Marcus deleted the alert. Rebecca no longer deserved space in his thoughts. That evening, after the children were asleep, Marcus and Nina sat on the back porch with coffee. The same spot where he'd sat as James 6 months ago, listening to her talk about her sister. "I've been thinking," Nina said carefully, "about my position here." Marcus's stomach dropped. "If this is about what I said that day, about hoping you'd stay, I didn't mean to pressure." "No, let me finish." She turned to face him. "I love those kids. They feel like family now. But I need to know what this is, Marcus. Am I the housekeeper who happens to live here? Am I the nanny? Am I?" "You're the woman who saved my children when I couldn't," Marcus interrupted quietly. "You're the person they ask for when they have nightmares. You're the one who taught Emma it's okay to laugh again." He paused. "And you're someone I'd like to get to know better, if you're open to that. No pressure. No expectations. Just honest possibility." Nina was quiet for a long moment. "Your children come first. Always." "Always," Marcus agreed. "And I'm not Rebecca. I won't pretend to be their mother. Andrea was their mother, and I respect that." "I know. And they know that too. But they also know you love them." She smiled, something soft and genuine. "I do. More than I expected to." "So we take it slow?" "Very slow," Nina confirmed. "Like glacially slow." "I can do glacial." They sat in comfortable silence, watching fireflies dance across the darkening yard. Inside, Emma called out from her bedroom. "Nina? Can you check for monsters?" Nina stood immediately. Marcus touched her hand gently. "Thank you. For everything." "Thank you for trusting me enough to let me help," she replied. As she headed inside, Marcus pulled out his phone one final time. He composed a text to David. "Set up the foundation we discussed. The Andrea Chen Foundation for Child Advocacy. Focus on training mandated reporters, funding child services, supporting people like Nina who speak up. Use whatever resources needed." David's reply came quickly, "About time. She'd be proud of you." Marcus looked up at the stars, thinking about Andrea. About the life they'd built, the children they'd made, and how she'd trusted him to protect them after she was gone. He'd failed at first, blinded by loneliness and grief. But he'd learned something crucial during those 23 days undercover. Sometimes protecting the people you love means becoming invisible. Sometimes it means admitting you were wrong. And sometimes it means recognizing that the heroes in your story aren't always the ones you expect. Nina reappeared at the door. "Emma wants you to say goodnight too." Marcus stood, following her inside. Both of us." "Both of us," Nina confirmed. They climbed the stairs together, toward the sound of children's laughter, toward a future nobody could have predicted 6 months ago. The best revenge, Marcus had learned, wasn't destroying the person who hurt you. It was building something better than they ever could have imagined. It was choosing healing over hatred. It was proving that love, the real kind that protects and nurtures and fights, would always be stronger than the twisted counterfeit Rebecca had tried to force on his family. Rebecca was serving her sentence in a minimum security facility, her reputation destroyed, her plans for guardianship laughable in hindsight. Meanwhile, Emma was drawing pictures again. Tyler was sleeping through the night. And Marcus Chen, billionaire CEO who'd once thought money could solve everything, had learned that sometimes the most valuable thing you can do is simply show up, even if it means disguising yourself as someone else first. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to fight for what's right. And remember, the strongest thing you can do isn't always the loudest. Sometimes it's the quiet act of standing between a child and harm, no matter what it costs you. Because that's what real courage looks like.